And police in Georgia say rapper Lil Jon's 27-year-old son, Nathan Smith, was found dead in a pond. Smith, also known as DJ Young Slade, was reported missing Tuesday morning after being seen running out of his home. Officials say his cause of death is still to be determined, but so far there are no signs of foul play. Lil Jon says he and Smith's mother are extremely heartbroken for the loss of their son.
It was just after 6 a.m. when the front door opened. No argument, no packed bag, no dramatic goodbye. A 27-year-old man stepped outside barefoot, without his phone, without his wallet, without even shoes. He walked toward the quiet streets of Milton, Georgia, and then disappeared. That man was Nathan Murray Smith, known to the music world as DJ Young Slade, the son of Grammy-winning producer and hip-hop icon Lil Jon. Within hours, police were calling it a missing person case. Officers said he may have been disoriented. Search teams began scanning nearby woods and water. The neighborhood, usually calm and upscale, suddenly felt like the center of a real-life mystery. No threats reported, no signs of foul play, just silence. And that silence is what makes this story hit harder. Because this isn't just another headline. It's a father waiting for a call, a community searching for answers, a young artist who walked out into the morning and never made it back home. What really happened after 6 a.m.? It started like any other quiet morning in Milton, Georgia. A peaceful suburb, tree-lined streets, expensive homes, the kind of neighborhood where nothing ever really happens. But around 6 a.m., that calm shattered. Nathan Murray Smith, known professionally as DJ Young Slade, walked out of his home barefoot. No shoes, no phone, no wallet. According to early police alerts, he may have been disoriented. He didn't take his car, he didn't leave a note, he simply stepped outside and headed toward the intersection of Baldwin Drive and Mayfield Road. And then, nothing. When hours passed with no contact, concern turned into urgency. The Milton Police Department issued a missing person alert describing him as possibly in need of assistance. That detail changed everything. This wasn't framed as a criminal case. It was a welfare concern. Authorities made it clear there was no known threat to the public, but they advised residents not to approach him if spotted, instead to call police immediately. Search teams began canvassing the area. Officers checked nearby woods, neighborhood paths, and bodies of water. Patrol units moved through surrounding streets. What made it more troubling was the simplicity of it all. No dramatic event, no visible struggle. Just a door opening at 6 a.m. and a young man walking into the early morning air without the basic things anyone would normally take. That absence of normal behavior is what made this case feel different from the start. Because when someone leaves like that, it usually means something wasn't right long before the door ever opened. Before the headlines labeled him as the missing son of a rap icon, Nathan Murray Smith was building something of his own. Yes, his father is Lil Jon, the voice behind Yeah, and one of the architects of crunk music. But Nathan, known professionally as DJ Young Slade, wasn't trying to live in that shadow. He was carving his own lane. Born in 1998, Nathan grew up surrounded by music. Studio sessions weren't rare events in his childhood. They were normal life. In interviews, Lil Jon once joked that when Nathan's mother was pregnant, the baby would kick during late-night studio recordings. Music wasn't just around him, it was in him. As a teenager, Nathan leaned into production and DJ work. He trained at Scratch DJ Academy and later attended New York University, sharpening his technical skills and creative direction. By his early 20s, he wasn't just experimenting. He was releasing music, collaborating with artists, and performing at festivals. He worked alongside his father on projects, including Lil Jon's 2024 Total Meditation album, a surprising pivot that blended hip-hop roots with wellness themes. That father-son collaboration showed chemistry, but also independence. Nathan wasn't just featured, he contributed. He released singles under the DJ Young Slade name and kept an active presence in Atlanta's music scene. Friends described him as focused, low drama, creative. That's what makes this disappearance feel heavier. This wasn't someone spiraling publicly. There were no viral controversies, no loud conflicts, just a young producer steadily building momentum. And then one morning, he stepped outside, and the world only started talking about him after he was gone. To understand why this disappearance feels so heavy, you have to look at the man waiting for answers. Lil Jon isn't just a hype voice from the 2000s, he's a cultural figure who helped shape Southern hip-hop. From Get Low to global hits that crossed into pop and EDM, he built a career that lasted decades, something very few artists managed to do. But over the last few years, something shifted. The same man known for wild club anthems began publicly talking about meditation, therapy, and sobriety. Around 2024, Lil Jon released a guided meditation album, surprising fans who only knew him for high-energy party tracks. He spoke openly about health scares, aging, and wanting to live longer for his children. That part matters, because this isn't the image of a reckless celebrity disconnected from family. This is a father who had been intentionally rebuilding his life around wellness and presence. He competed in fitness competitions. He discussed therapy. He talked about wanting to break generational patterns. And through all that, Nathan was still part of the picture. They worked together musically, appeared on shows together. In interviews, Nathan described his dad not as the loud persona the world sees, but as someone who drinks tea at home and watches movies. That contrast is striking now. The stage persona versus the quiet father. When news broke about Nathan walking out at 6 a.m., Lil Jon didn't rush to social media with dramatic statements. The family asked for privacy and prayers. That silence spoke louder than any headline. Behind the platinum plaques and Grammy wins, this became something painfully simple. A dad waiting for his son to come home. Once the missing person alert went out, everything shifted into motion. Milton police moved quickly. Officers canvassed the neighborhood around Baldwin Drive and Mayfield Road. Patrol cars rolled through quiet streets that rarely see emergency lights. Neighbors checked doorbell cameras. Residents scanned wooded areas behind their homes. Because in that part of Chur is everywhere. Thick tree lines, small ponds, walking paths, areas where someone could easily disappear from sight in minutes. Authorities emphasized from the beginning that this was being treated as a welfare case. No evidence of foul play, no known threat to the public. Just concern that Nathan may have been disoriented when he left. That detail changed the tone of the search. Search teams didn't approach it like a crime scene. They approached it like a rescue mission. K-9 units were deployed. Drones scanned wooded areas from above. Officers checked nearby bodies of water, including Mayfield Lake. Volunteers in the community began spreading his photo across social media. Every hour without contact made the situation heavier. The hardest part? There were no digital breadcrumbs, no last phone ping, no credit card activity, no vehicle movement. In modern missing cases, technology usually leaves a trail. This time, there was nothing, just a timestamp. Around 6 a.m., and a growing silence that felt louder with each passing day. Because when someone leaves without the basics, phone, wallet, shoes, it suggests urgency, confusion, something internal happening long before anyone else noticed. And that uncertainty is what made the search feel different from the very beginning. Before investigators had solid answers, the internet already had theories. Within hours of the alert, Nathan's name was trending. Clips of him from old interviews resurfaced. Photos of him performing as DJ Young Slade flooded timelines. And of course, speculation started creeping in. Some people focused on the barefoot detail, others fixated on the time. 6 a.m., still dark outside. A few accounts began connecting dots that didn't actually connect, dragging in old hip-hop rivalries or using the word Opps without any evidence. That's how modern missing cases unfold now. Facts move slowly, speculation moves fast. YouTube live streams popped up dissecting every update. Comment sections turned into digital detective boards. Some users meant well, others chased views. And this is where things get dangerous. When a disappearance involves someone connected to fame, especially hip-hop, people expect drama. They assume layers. They assume enemies. They assume conspiracy. But authorities were consistent. No sign of foul play, no known threats. Treated as a welfare case. Still, the cultural lens made it hard for some people to accept a simple answer, because hip-hop history has trained audiences to expect conflict, to expect something bigger than reality. Meanwhile, a real family was living through a nightmare in real time. The internet debated. The police searched. Lil Jon stayed mostly silent. And in that gap between facts and imagination, the story started taking on a life of its own, which raised a bigger question. Have we become too comfortable turning real pain into content? The moment certain blogs used the word Opps, the tone of the conversation changed. In hip-hop culture, Opps doesn't just mean rivals. It implies danger, retaliation, history. So when Nathan's name started appearing next to that word online, it triggered something deeper in the audience. Even though there was no evidence tying his disappearance to any rivalry, the culture filled in the blanks. That reaction didn't come out of nowhere. Over the years, rap beefs have escalated publicly and, in some cases, tragically. Fans have seen diss tracks turn into real-world consequences. They've watched family members get mentioned in lyrics. They've seen children dragged into online battles. So, when a rapper's child ends up in headlines, people jump to the worst-case scenario. But here's the reality. There is no public record of Nathan having enemies, no documented threats, no active conflicts involving him. Authorities have consistently framed this as a welfare and mental health concern, not a criminal act. Still, the narrative stuck for a moment because fear spreads faster than clarification, and once an audience is conditioned to expect violence, it becomes harder for them to accept a quieter explanation. That's the uncomfortable truth. Hip-hop's past conflicts created a lens, and through that lens, even a missing person case can feel like a thriller. But sometimes, a story isn't about enemies. Sometimes it's about something happening internally, something no one else saw come. And that's where this case shifts into an even more sensitive conversation. There's a major difference between a criminal investigation and a welfare case. And from the beginning, authorities treated Nathan's disappearance as the second one. When police describe someone as possibly disoriented or in need of assistance, that signals something internal may have been happening, not an external threat. It shifts the focus from who did this to where is he and is he safe? That distinction matters. In welfare cases involving adults, there isn't always forced entry. There isn't always a struggle. Sometimes there's just a sudden, uncharacteristic departure. No phone, no wallet, no clear plan. And that's what made this situation so concerning. Leaving barefoot without a device or identification isn't typical behavior. It suggests urgent confusion, possibly a mental or emotional episode that happened quietly before anyone else noticed. What complicates these cases is time. The first 24 to 48 hours are critical. But when there's no digital trail, no GPS ping, no card activity, no camera footage beyond a driveway, investigators are left searching physically rather than digitally. And physical searches take longer. This is also where public reaction can unintentionally make things harder. When speculation spreads faster than verified updates, it can distract from the core mission, locating the missing person safely. Behind the headlines, this wasn't a rap mystery. It was a welfare search, and welfare searches carry a different kind of tension, not fueled by enemies or revenge, but by the fragile uncertainty of someone who may need help more than anything else. That's what made the silence so heavy. Being the child of a global music icon sounds glamorous. Backstage passes, studio access, industry connections most artists would dream of. But it also comes with pressure most people never see. Nathan wasn't just a regular 27-year-old chasing creative goals. He was the son of Lil Jon, a name permanently attached to a movement in hip-hop history. That kind of legacy follows you everywhere. Every achievement gets compared. Every mistake gets amplified. Every step feels observed, even when you're trying to build your own identity. By all visible accounts, Nathan wasn't chasing controversy. He wasn't clout hunting. He wasn't constantly inserting himself into drama. He appeared focused on music production, DJ work, and collaboration. But living adjacent to fame changes how the world reacts to you. If a regular 27-year-old walked out barefoot at 6 a.m., it might stay local news. When a celebrity's child does it, it becomes national. That spotlight can distort perception. It can turn a welfare case into a mystery. It can turn concern into conspiracy. It can turn silence into suspense. There's also an emotional layer that often gets overlooked. Children of public figures sometimes grow up navigating two versions of their parent, the public persona and the private human. In interviews, Nathan described his father as calm, grounded, tea-drinking at home, very different from the crunk legend the world sees. That duality can be complex to grow up around, and when something unexpected happens, the weight of that family name makes the reaction louder than it might otherwise be. But behind the fame, this wasn't about legacy, it was about a young man, and a family waiting for him to return. There's a moment in every modern crisis where the story stops being private and starts becoming content. This was one of those moments. Clips of Nathan resurfaced, old interviews, music snippets, family photos. Some posts were heartfelt, others felt performative. And then came the breakdown videos. Timelines, maps, theories layered over dramatic music. That shift happens fast now. Concern turns into curiosity. Curiosity turns into engagement. Engagement turns into monetization. It's not always malicious. Many people genuinely care, but the algorithm doesn't reward patience or restraint. It rewards drama. It rewards mystery. And when a disappearance doesn't come with clear answers, creators sometimes fill the silence themselves. That's where things get risky, because every added theory, even when labeled just speculation, can reshape public perception. It can pressure families, it can create false narratives that linger long after they're disproved. Meanwhile, the real story stays painfully simple. A father waiting, a search continuing, a community. What makes this case different is how quickly empathy had to compete with entertainment. The line between awareness and exploitation became, and that raises an uncomfortable question. In a culture that thrives on headlines and reaction, how do we make space for compassion? Because behind every trending topic is someone living, and sometimes the most powerful thing we can do isn't analyze. Sometimes the loudest part of a story is the silence. No dramatic press conferences, no explosive updates, no shocking twist that ties everything together, just days turning into weeks. Authorities have remained careful with their wording. They've continued treating this as a welfare and mental health situation. No confirmed foul play, no confirmed crime, just an unanswered disappearance. And that kind of silence is hard for people to sit with. We're used to fast resolutions, viral footage, breaking alerts, clear villains, clear endings. But real life doesn't move like a Netflix series. It lingers. It waits. For a parent, silence isn't neutral. Imagine checking your phone every few minutes. Imagine replaying the last conversation. Imagine wondering if you missed us. That's the part cameras don't. Meanwhile, the public keeps refreshing for updates. Each rumor sparks a wave. Each repost fuels another cycle of But the core truth hasn't changed. A son left at 6 a.m. and hasn't returned. And in the absence of answers, something else about mental health, about how quickly life can shift without. This isn't about rap beefs anymore. It isn't about legacy. It's about something painfully uncertain. And until there's clarity, that silence will keep speaking louder than any headline ever. The hardest part of any disappearance isn't what we know. It's why did he leave without his, why that early? Those details replay in people's minds because they feel intentional. But sometimes the truth behind those moments is far less dramatic and far more personal. Investigators have consistently emphasized something important. There's no confirmed sign of violence, no public evidence pointing to an attack, no ransom demands, no threatening messages. That shifts the focus somewhere else. When someone walks out unexpectedly, especially in a possibly confused state, the conversation often turns toward mental health, disorientation, stress, emotional overload, things that don't always show up publicly. And that's the uncomfortable reality. You can be talented, you can be connected, you can have family support, and still be fighting something invisible. From the outside, Nathan's life looked steady. Music projects, festival appearances, family moments. Nothing chaotic, nothing alarming, but internal battles don't always broadcast themselves. That's why authorities urged the public not to approach him if spotted, suggesting concern for his well-being more than danger to others. Still, without confirmation, every possibility hangs in the air, and that uncertainty forces a deeper question. How many people struggle quietly while the world assumes? Because sometimes the signs aren't loud, they're subtle, and by the time anyone notices, someone has already walked. At the end of all the analysis, speculation, and headlines, everything comes back to one image: a front door, and a father hoping it opens again. This story isn't about music charts. It isn't about industry rivalries. It isn't about viral clips or trending hashtags. It's about a family living in the space between fear and hope. Somewhere in Milton, Georgia, search efforts continue, quietly, methodically, without drama. Just people walking through woods, scanning water lines, checking every possible lead. And somewhere else, a parent waits. The world may move on to the next headline. The algorithm may chase the next controversy. But for a family, time doesn't reset. Every hour stretches. Every phone notification feels heavier than the last. Until there's clarity, one truth remains. This is a human story. A son who walked out at 6 a.m. a father who refuses to stop believing, and a community holding on to hope that this doesn't end in silence. Because sometimes the most powerful ending isn't dramatic. It's a knock on the door, and the words every parent longs to hear. Dad, I'm... If this story moved you even a little, don't just scroll past it. Take a second to care. Drop a comment with a prayer, a positive thought, or a message of support for Nathan and his family. Share this video so more people stay aware and his name doesn't fade from the conversation. The more eyes on a story, the stronger the hope. And if you want updates and real breakdowns that focus on facts over rumors, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Let's keep compassion louder than speculation. Until there are answers, we keep watching, sharing,